Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Catherine Horaire. I'm the founder of The Artist Entrepreneur. I'm a business and PR strategist for creatives and artists. Today, I'm very, very thankful that you are joining me for this workshop on finding your niche and connecting with your target audience. Boy, is that a question that we get a lot. Okay, this is a topic that's a very sensitive topic for artists, something that we get a lot of questions on. Either it's in the Artist Entrepreneur Network or with my clients. And I want to congratulate you, really, as we're getting started, I want to congratulate you for taking action, right? Doing something for yourself, for your business, taking some time today to sit down with me, with all of us, right? And to go through this content together, because basically you're making a commitment to yourself, you're making a commitment to your business. And I hope that you will take away, right, what you were hoping to get today. But especially, I just want you to know that just the fact that you're joining, that you're making this commitment and that you want to take action, I am convinced that you will see changes in your art business. I've been doing this for a while now, and I know that when artists are committed to something, right, they get it done and they get results. So I just want to make sure, okay, that you have your workbook with you, you have some note-taking material so that you can take notes, because I will be opening up my slides and we're going to be sharing a lot of content today. What else? No, that's all I have to say. So we can drop into the content right away. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you tell me if you're seeing the slide? If you can just nod so I can see. Yes, okay, great, wonderful. So if you were joining the Finding Your Niche and Connecting with Your Target Audience workshop, then you are in the right place, okay? So what will we be talking about today? Well, one of the most crucial aspects of your business, right? Your clients and your collectors, because really, without clients, without collectors, we're hobbyists, right? We agree on that. So, and clients, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? So they can be amazing support in our business. They can be what drives us, right? To create, to sell, to connect, right? But they can also drain us, right? If we don't have the right clients, if we're not focusing on the right people to sell to, we feel like we're just trying to navigate in a market that's not for us, right? So, and I hear that from artists a lot, and maybe you can relate. I hear things like, the gallery scene, I don't feel like it's for me, but I don't know what else that I could be doing. Or I have these clients, but they're always asking for a discount, or they're always saying that my art is too expensive, and they're always asking for something special. They don't want to pay. So maybe you relate to these comments, or maybe you have some other issues with your clients or your collectors. But we know that they can be a driving force in our business, and they can be also a source of fatigue and resentment if we don't have the right fit. So you're going to see me doing this a lot during this workshop, because this is really what we want today, right? Is to figure out which people, right, are the right fit for what we have to offer. So that's really what we want to do today, because your clients are a crucial aspect of your business. And how are we going to talk about this, right? Well, we're going to talk about three aspects, right? Every topic that I share and I teach, I like to talk about the strategy, right? The implementation of the strategy, but also the mindset that we need to work on so that we implement, well, we actually implement, right? Because if we don't have good mindset going on, we just procrastinate, there's resistance, and we don't implement, right? And for the implementation, well, what do I need to implement? Well, we need to have the right strategy that we will implement. So we'll talk about strategy. Essentially, this workshop is about strategy, right? The content. But I'm also going to address implementation and mindset, because connecting with your target audience or your ideal collector, like I will talk about later, you need to have a strong mindset and need to be ready to implement. Just looking at my here. Oh, why do I talk about collectors, ideal collectors versus target audience? Well, first, I find that target audience is not very personal, and we kind of often forget that we're talking to people here, right? We're talking to people and humans, right? We want to talk to humans, so it's essential so that's why I talk about collectors, because we want to have an idea of who we want to talk to. This is a person, this is a human, right? We want to have connections, we want to have interactions with that person. And why collector? Also because it's so much easier, right, to sell to someone who's already purchased from us, right? To build that relationship and have a collector who will come back year after year and be a business partner to us and purchase our work on a regular basis, rather to always have to be out and about and looking for new clients. We always have to be looking for new clients, but having a collector base, meaning having these people that we know we can count on, and when we have a new body of work available, they're the first ones who want to know about it. So that's why we're talking about ideal collector here. So my goal today, right, is to give you a framework, right, to help you get clear on the why, right, the what, the who, and the how of your art business, okay? So we're gonna stretch a little larger, right? We're gonna take a few steps back before we talk about your ideal collector. We're gonna take a few steps back and talk a little bit, take a snapshot, big picture of your business, okay? Oh, I can't do it that way. I need to do it that way. And my goal, right, by doing that, by giving you more clarity, this is really what I'm hoping, is to give you more clarity, like I said, on the why, who, what, and how, so that we can have that ideal fit I was talking about earlier between you, your work, and your clients. So had to just put a little Cinderella slipper in there, okay, because that's what we want. We want an ideal fit. So before we get into all of this teaching stuff, right, I'd like you to take, a hard look at yourself and at your business. And maybe I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love over the next few days as we work together, right? So those of you who've worked with me before know that I say things like they are, but one thing I want you to know, so who are you in those two pictures, right? Are you the little kitten who's hiding from everyone and everything, even people who want to give the kitten food, right? And maybe in your case, it's money. You're still hiding because you don't trust that it's for you? Or are you that strong and confident Picasso in his studio, right? Who says, yeah, you come to me, and no, I don't negotiate, because my art is worth so much more than what I'm selling it for. And you are lucky. You are the one who are lucky to be owning my work, right? So two completely different mindsets, two completely different ways to approach, right, and take responsibility for our art business, okay? Because really, really what I want you to think about today is, even if you know, or even if you think you don't know who your target audience ideal collector is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, okay? I want to say that again. If you know who your target ideal collector is, if you think you don't know who it is, it doesn't matter. If you don't have the confidence, if you're not building your confidence for your art business on a day-to-day basis, right? If you're not getting out there and meeting people and connecting with people, right? You're not showing up as a professional, okay, in your art business, nothing is going to happen. You can have the best ideal collector avatar in the world, right? You can have this great, amazing idea of who you want to sell your art to. If it just remains on paper, if it just remains in this workshop, really doesn't matter, okay? So I want you to start, this is the mindset part that I was talking about earlier, right? So as we go through this, listen to the resistance that's happening to what I'm saying. Also take a step back and see what's going on between your ears. Are you resisting what I'm saying? Are you thinking that this is not for you, that it doesn't apply, or you can't do this? If it does, then we need to address that, right? We need to go see where this is coming from, because the information will not be enough if your business is not making you feel good, if you're not confident, and if you're not going out there and connecting with people. Okay. And really, if it's making you feel like that little kitten there, if this is how you're feeling about your business, then we need to know why, right? Is it because you lack clarity, right? Is it because you lack clarity? Probably. Is the lack of clarity a weakness, an opportunity, or a symptom of resistance, okay? Let's hope that it's an opportunity, okay? Let's use today as a way to build on this lack of clarity, get you that clarity that you need so you can, boom, right? Take this as an opportunity and reach the goals that you set for yourself in your business, okay? So no more excuses, people, okay? Because you're doing this workshop for you. So everyone wants, I found this, I tried to find who said that, but I found so many sources. I can't give credit because I found so many sources, but everyone wants to be successful until they see what it takes. I'm not a person who supports overnight success. I don't believe in it, right? But what I do believe is that we all have this possibility within us, right? But we have to decide. So whether you're watching this live, whether you're watching a recording, I would like you to take a moment to commit to your desired outcome for this workshop. How will you know that this workshop has worked for you? What will you have to do? Because this is not a magic pill, right? Connecting with your ideal collector requires effort, requires getting out of your comfort zone, requires sometimes talking to people that we're not too comfortable with, right? So you have to commit to taking action after this, right? So decide now what your desired outcome is, what you will do with the info and the content that I will be sharing with you, okay? It's not about what others are doing. We don't really care what others are doing. It's about what you will be doing, and it's about starting where you're at. You can only start where you're at, okay? Okay. So today we want to identify who is the perfect fit, right? The ideal fit for your work. Who you should be nurturing, right? What kind of people you should be bringing into your community. Like, we talk a lot about community these days, right? A lot of brands now don't talk about their clients or their customers. They're talking about their community, right? So who do you want to bring in your community and nurture to build your business? So to do that, we need to take 2 steps back, because I told you that this workshop, before we zero in on who your ideal collector is, before we can zero in on that, we need to take a few steps back and get clear on your why, right? Which is the foundation of your business. So some of you here are on the lab, I see, they're like, they can't stand me anymore because I talk about that all the time. So why talk about your why, okay? Well, first, because it's going to give you clarity on your priorities, Okay, if you know why you're doing something, you'll have much better decision process. You'll be much better at saying no to things that don't serve you and saying yes to things that do serve you, although they require you getting out of your comfort zone, right? And the second reason why you're getting your why clear is important is because it's going to help you attract the right clients who are aligned with what you do, why you do it, how you do it. While I was thinking about this content for this workshop, an analogy that came to me was that it's like dating, right? Figuring out your why. So where am I going with this? Well, if you don't know yourself, right? If you don't love yourself, if you don't know yourself, if you don't know where you want to go in life and why you want to go there, it's going to be very difficult for you to find the right partner, right? So that's true in love, right? It's true in dating, right? We always say to kids, you know, in teenagers, first figure out what you want, figure out who you are before you commit to a relationship, right? So, and sometimes not so young kids say that to them too, but same thing for your business, right? So you want to get clear on why you're doing this so that you can really on the right people, okay? What does it mean? What does it mean? I'm sorry here, I'm trying to fix something. And I still can't figure out what's going on. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. So how do you figure out your why? Okay. So your why will evolve, by the way. Okay. This is not like a one-time thing that you figure out today and then you're done. So either you go back to your why and update it every quarter or twice a year, but things evolve. You know, I remember when I started my business, my why was pretty clear. Like, why are you starting business? Because I need money now. Like, it was pretty clear. But as the business evolved and as I journal more about it, right? And often when I start working with artists, whether it's one-on-one or artists like you, the first thing is, why do I do this? Well, why am I starting a business? Well, because I need the money, right? But then when you start digging a little deeper, there's other ways to make money, right? There's other ways. So why did you choose this one? And let's all be honest here. You didn't choose the easiest path, okay? You didn't choose you're probably not doing this because it's easy. You're probably doing this because inside of you, there's no other way. There's no other way you want to live your life. This is how you want to live your life. So why? Okay, so why is art your career, your business, and not just a hobby, right? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Again, not the easiest path, right? So there's probably a reason. Why do you get up in the morning and do what you do? Why is it that you need to share your message, right? Why is it so important? And then you can go on and on and on. And this is a journaling exercise that I highly recommend. I see a lot of people who just skip through this part and say, oh, Catherine's woohoo thingies. But no, it's super important to do it. You will see results the more you dive in and you are honest with yourself. This is not something you have to share with anyone. This is not something you have to go public with, but it's something that you need to gain clarity on. For those of you who, and I'm not the only one saying that, right? Those of you who have read The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, you know she talks about morning pages, and she recommends that artists write at least 3 pages of journal 3 pages every single day. So something that can help you, can trigger, you know, some prompt you to your journaling are the questions that you have here on the slide. And maybe it won't all come out on the first day, so give yourself a chance to really explore your why. Don't skip it. Once you've gained some clarity on your why, that you've taken some time to sit on it and explore it, right? Then I would like you to look at your long-term vision, okay? Where you are going, where you are headed, okay? So as you are thinking about your vision, where do you want to be in 3-5 years? This is not a goal-setting exercise, okay? Our brain is not wired to set 3 to 5 year goals. So it's not something that has to be like the SMART goal exercise. Your vision is much more about what are you doing? Where are you? Who are you with? How are you feeling? It's more of a general sense of what your life and your business, because when we're entrepreneurs, the line is thin between our life and our business. It's pretty much all comes together. Life, business, family, friends, all comes together. So where are you? Who are you with? How are you feeling? What does your ideal day look like? How much money are you making? And what is the purpose of that money, right? What are you doing? Because I hear way too often, I want to sell my art. I want to make a living out of my art. That's not a driving purpose. It's not going to drive you to do what needs to get done to have a successful business, because clearly you don't know what a successful business means to you. And that's really what we want to do today, is to figure out, what does a successful business mean to you? What is your vision for your life, right? And you should write it down at the present tense, okay? And this will also drive your decision-making process, having a vision, right? Why are we creating a vision? Why am I asking you in an ideal collector workshop to talk about your vision? Well, because if you're looking at having a licensing career, your life is going to look very different than if you're looking at selling on the internet, or having your own gallery, or selling to a third-party gallery, or, I mean, there's as many art businesses and art career paths as there are artists, right? So if you dream of traveling or living in the country, or if the vision is to be part of the Brooklyn art scene, right? The choices that you are going to make, right? The strategic choices for your ideal collector, for your sales channels, for your marketing are going to be very different. So we need to start somewhere. And this is where we start. We start with your vision, and then we can, like I said before, find that ideal fit between your vision, your work, and the people who will be willing and happy to invest in you, okay? I can guarantee, okay, that if you take the time to do this properly, if you write it out and if you look at it on a regular basis, if you use that as a decision guiding process, if you learn nothing from this workshop but you just do that, it will be amazing for your life and your business. It's going to motivate you. It's going to give you opportunities. You're going to attract the right opportunities, or at least when the right opportunities show up, because you've gained clarity, you will hop on that train instead of watching the train go by, okay? Which I see so many artists do, unfortunately. And you'll be there at destination much sooner than you had anticipated, much sooner. Everything's going good? Going good? Yes? Okay. Okay, so part 3, target audience. So I'm using the generic term, but of course, I mean the ideal collector. That's what I'm really going to use over the next minutes, okay? You know that I'm francophone, so for the anecdote, niche in French means a little doghouse, so that's why I put the little doghouse image. So first, what is a niche, right? So just a simple, plain definition from dictionary.com, denoting or relating to products, services, or interests that appeal to a small, specialized section of the population, okay? So again, section of the population, let's remember we're talking about people, humans, okay? Sometimes when I hear people talk about their ideal collector, it looks like they're talking about robots. Like, these are all people, okay? And these are humans that we can have interactions with. They're not over there and you are over here. We want to build a community, right? But we want to focus because we don't want to be everything to everyone, okay? So why? Why are we talking about a niche here? Why can't you be everything to everyone, right? Because when you think about it, there's like, I don't know, 6-7 billion people on this planet. So why not try to sell my art to everybody? Well, that just actually doesn't work, okay? It just doesn't work, okay? You need to narrow it down. You need to focus for a few reasons. Number one, people want to invest in the best, okay? Not in random people who can do a little bit of everything, okay? So think about, because, you know, let's be honest here again, art is not it's a necessity for you in your life, right? But most people who buy art, they need shelter and food and clothing before they think about purchasing art, right? So when they're investing, for many of them, it's a splurge, right? It's a high-end, it's a luxury item, right? So if they're going to invest money, they want the person they want to work with, they want to purchase from an artist who's the best at what they do, right? Not an artist who's like okay at landscape and okay at abstract work and does a little bit of murals and does a little bit of photography and in his spare time does a little bit of sculpture, right? No, like they want the best person, to an artist, to serve them, right? So that they can also be proud of what they bought and then talk about it with their friends and family. So that's the first reason, right? And think about any purchase that you've made that's high-end or that was a little more out of high-end or luxury item, or even like, you know, if you go to the dentist, you want someone who's like the best at what they do. They're going to be playing with your mouth, right? Or whatever. So think about it, even in your own purchasing habits. I'm sure you will agree that if you're hiring a consultant or you're hiring someone for your health or you're hiring someone to redecorate your home, you want to work with someone who specializes in what you're looking for, not someone who can do a little bit of everything. Reason number one. Reason number two, money, right? As a leader in your niche, you can charge like a leader, right? If you're the best at what you do, which I think you are, then you should charge because people value you, right? They will value what you do. They will be willing to pay more to get your work. And connection number three, reason number three, connection with your ideal collector will be stronger, thus more successful, right? So if you're speaking the same language, if you have the same values, right? If you know exactly who you're talking to, right? Because you're talking to people who have that same interest, looking for that same expertise, then the connection will be much better. And I would like to add to that, actually, as I'm talking, I'm thinking of something else. Your cost per acquisition, okay? Your cost per acquisition, your marketing costs, your sales costs will be much lower, okay? So your cost of doing business, the more niche you are, the more specific you are, the easier it's going to be for you to narrow down and speak directly to your ideal collector, and thus your marketing costs will go down. If you're trying to speak to everyone, and you have to be everywhere, then your marketing costs are going to explode. Okay, so that's kind of reason 3.B, okay, that I'm adding to this slide. So hopefully I've convinced you, and already you're starting to think, okay, well, what's my niche, right? And if you're thinking, well, I do abstract work and I have no niche, then you are wrong, and we'll talk about that later, okay? Yeah. Sometimes I need to look at my notes because I get carried away. Where am I at? Okay, so we said it earlier, your clients are a vital part of your business, okay? And this slide is very important, especially if you're watching this and you're like, I haven't really sold anything yet, or I've only sold to friends and family, or the sample of people that I've sold to is very small, so I can't really define who my ideal collector, what my niche is at this point, right? So this slide is very important because I often hear artists say, well, I don't know who my ideal collector is. I don't know who likes my work, right? Having an art business is not a if you build it, they will come kind of thing, okay? I will set up a website. People can just come on my website and buy my art. For those of you who have been doing this for a while, you know that I'm right. It's not a if you build it, they will come kind of thing, right? On the other hand, you're the business owner, right? You know how I talked about mindset, so I'm coming back to that now. You get to decide who you want to work with. You get to decide who you will be interacting with every single day in your business, okay? Not the other way around. It's not others who decide that because if you don't okay, I'm just going to say that again, okay? You get to decide who you want to work with and who you want to serve and who you want to sell to, right? Because it's going to be you as the business owner, as the artist, as the creator, will need to reach out first. Thus, the if you build it, they will come kind of thing doesn't work, right? So now is your opportunity. Now is your opportunity to, and we're going to work on this now, to make assumptions, right, on who you would like to work with, right? Not the other way around. And then validate if your assumptions are on, they're working, if they're true, and if they can help you build your business, and if these are the right people in your business to come to sell to in your business, okay? It's not like a guessing game. And also because if the people, I hear that often. Okay, I'm going to give you a specific example. I hear that often, and maybe that's something that you can relate to. An artist who will tell me, well, I live in a very small community. There is no high-end collector in my community, no galleries, and I really don't see myself in any way selling in high-end, very urban galleries. So I don't know where to find high-end collectors though. Okay, well, what I'm hearing is that you don't want to sell to high-end collectors, right? So you need to look at your market. You're telling me there's no high-end collectors, plus you're telling me that this is really not a market that you want to be selling in because you're not comfortable with that, right? So then what's the solution, right? What's the solution if you're saying that these people are not in your community and these are really not the people you want to work with? So why are you trying to work with them? Why are you you pushing and white knuckling and saying that your business is not working because you don't have high-end collectors in your community, when clearly you don't want to be working with these people, because that's not who your art is for, right? Your art is not made for them. So what kind of products and services, right, can you develop with your art that will be a good fit, right, for the people that you want to serve? If you want to serve the people in your small community, then you'll have to think about sales channels and products and services that are the right fit. Hopefully, this is something that's starting to get clearer now that I'm explaining it with an example. Oh, here I have a little diagram that explains it more in depth. Okay. So on the one hand, I'm going to take it. Okay. So on the left side is really looking, okay, this is what we want to, so the middle is the sweet spot. That's what we want to achieve. On the one hand, the left-hand side, we're looking inward. Okay, a little bit what I was explaining to you earlier. So we're looking at your why, right? Your why you are doing what you're doing, why you're starting a business, what are the values, right, that you want to share. Then we're looking at the what, right? What is the art all about, right? We can talk about whether it's the medium, right? Because if you're doing monumental sculptures versus doing little small photography, or if you're more someone who does commission work or very specific on a type of landscape in your area, or maybe you do food art or whatever. But knowing what the art is and how it's sold is really important. The who, right? Who are you? What are your values, your beliefs, your interests? So a lot of artists don't think that that's important, right? That the art is enough. I would say yes and no. So the art needs to speak for itself, right? The art has to be top-notch quality. The art needs to be presented and it needs to be front and center and has to speak for itself. I agree. But if you want to market yourself, your personality, your values, your beliefs, your interests are going to be very important, because your ideal collector is going to invest not only in the art, but in you. They are going to trust that buying from you means that they're paying a good price, that it has the value, and that you are serious about your work and that you're going to continue creating, right? So, and they'll want to, and you want to buy art from an artist that shares your values, right? Yeah. So that's kind of, usually we see that. We'll rarely see a collector buying from an artist that doesn't share political allegiance or things like that. I'm not saying you have to go political if your art isn't, but if it is, right, you can expect that people who will buy your art will be of the same political allegiance. And how much is important here. So remember the example I gave earlier about someone who wants to sell to their community where there is no high-end collectors? Well, then as you're looking at the art and the type of art you want to sell, well, you need to make sure that you're creating products that are at a price point that will be a sweet spot for your ideal collector. And that applies also if you want to sell to high-end collectors. If you want to sell high-end collectors and you're selling work at $200-300, high-end collectors will not give you time of day. So you need to have an overall marketing strategy, right? Your overall marketing strategy needs to be a good fit with the people that you want to sell to, and that will find that interesting, find what you have to offer interesting. So on one hand, we need to look inward. So that's the gray side. And on the other hand, we have to look into and investigate, right? Who are the people who are the right fit for what we have to offer, okay? So traditionally, when we would talk about target audience, we would only talk about demographics. But today, marketing has evolved a lot, and we know that just demographics are not enough, because if I take myself or as an example, woman, 38, mother of two, it's not enough. It's not enough. You could put 200 women who are 38, mothers of two and married, and we would all be very, very different and would have very, very different purchasing habits, right? And decision-making patterns that would be very different. So that's why we need to go beyond that. We need to go very deep as we're talking about our ideal collector. We need to get to know their interests and their lifestyle, right? We need to know also what their problems are, right? Because if we want to connect with them on a deeper level with our message and our values and beliefs, then we need to know what keeps them awake at night, okay? So in the marketing world, that's what we say, what keeps them up at night. We need to also understand the need behind the need, right? So why do they purchase art? Why do they want to surround themselves with art, right? Is it a status thing? Is it because they always wanted to be an artist and never followed through? Is it just for decoration? Is it really with an idea of building a legacy in a collection, right? And also, where do they hang out? Where do they hang out? Where can we find these people? That part is super essential, right? Online and offline, okay? Because today with social media, it makes it so much easier. So social media is, again, a double-edged sword, because it makes it much easier to connect with people. But it also has the downside that we have a tendency to just connect on social media, and we don't go out anymore and meet people in real life. And there's something to be said about seeing art live in front of us, right? It has nothing to do with seeing it on screen. So when it comes to selling art and connecting with your ideal collector, I know there are artists who do it exclusively online, but I just want to make sure that in your case, you think about what your strategy is, and it's not just that you're facing resistance because you're an introvert and you don't want to go out and you're only using social media. You also have to get out of your comfort zone and get out there and connect with people live. Okay, so the first step here in finding your ideal collector is to brainstorm about that person. And the first thing to do is to use your intuition. Okay, so you look at yourself, look inward with your art, who you are, your interests, your values, your beliefs, your price structure right now, your products offering. Look at your overall business model canvas, basically, right? What your business is all about. And on the other hand, start looking at who would be the right fit for what you have to offer, okay? And the first thing we do it through intuition. So just to give you a few examples, I just thought I would just play with it so you can see what I'm talking about. So because I know some artists, what they like to do is they go on Pinterest and they find an image of someone and they start building an avatar, right? That ideal collector with an image, right, of that person. It's not the real person, but it just gives them an idea. So they give that person a name. So let's say her name here is Gina, okay? And she's an entrepreneur. She owns a small business. So could your ideal collector be Gina? Well, are you an artist that does food art, right? That's kind of obvious. She has a little business, a bakery. Maybe she would be interested in maybe artists who do food art, working with business owners that would be interested. I've had a client in the past who's done that, and she's been very successful at it. Are you a photographer, right, that loves supporting business owners by creating commission pieces that will make their business place really pop, right? So maybe Gina would be a good ideal collector for you. Or maybe you are a sculptor who does really monumental pieces that becomes showstoppers for businesses, right? So people have, business owners purchase your work, it's in front of their business, people stop to see. I know in my town we have a few of those, right? People stop, they look at the monumental piece, and then they want to see what's inside the business, and they go in the business. And it's been very good for the artist and very good for the business owner. So you see where I'm going here. So thinking about what are the values, right? Because here when we talk about Gina, her focus is definitely not conceptual art, right? Her focus is the core, right? She wants her business to be different, not like she doesn't own a Starbucks and she doesn't want it to look like her Starbucks. She wants it to look like her home place, right? And the other thing about Gina that we need to know is that she works really, really long hours, right? She doesn't have time to start shopping around for art. She wants something, and she really doesn't know she feels like she doesn't know anything about art, but she knows that it can make a difference in her workplace, right? But she doesn't have time to go look for art. So she needs someone who will offer her something that's turnkey and that she can trust that it's going to be top-notch quality, okay? So you see here, we're not talking about, high-end gallery style type of work, conceptual work, right? But this lady over here, right? This lady over here, if we're looking at another type of audience, another type of collector, right? She's looking for conceptual work, right? She goes to the art fairs. She is more affluent. She's a clear connoisseur of the art market, okay? She knows which galleries she doesn't buy directly from the artists, right? She only buys what her advisors suggest, right? So she goes to the fairs, she has a few galleries, she buys through consultants, advisors. That's really how she purchases her work, right? And she's looking for conceptual work, something that's new, that's edgy, usually large scale, and money is not an issue. Actually, the more expensive, the better, because that's what gives her the status that she's looking for with the art that she's collecting. She's building something, a legacy for her family that she can leave to her children and grandchildren. So as you can see, Gina and let's call her Sarah, they have two very different goals. The type of work they're going to be looking for are very, very different. And the connection you'll be able to make, there's no right or wrong, right? There's nothing wrong to want to sell to Gina. There's nothing wrong to want to sell to Sarah. That's how I called her, right? Sarah. But clearly, if your work is for Sarah, it's not for Gina. And clearly that if your work is for Gina, it's not for Sarah, okay? But then I can hear you. You're telling me, yeah, but my work isn't for Gina nor for Sarah. Well, that's absolutely normal because I invented Gina and Sarah. And what if your work is not a clear niche, right? It's not a niche like I do pet portraits, right? Or I paint horses, or I paint cakes, or I do photography of seascapes, or I don't do mini 3D I don't know, wooden sculpture, okay? What if what I do is abstract? Or what if what I do, okay, let's use that one. What if what I do is abstract? So what do we do then, right? Because it's not a clear visual niche, right? But you're abstract, there's a reason you're doing abstract. There's a message there. There's an emotion there. There are values there. And that's what you're going to have to. The first word that comes to mind is exploit, but I don't like that word. Leverage. Leverage. Let's use the word leverage. So that's what you're going to need to leverage, right, to get the results that you want and really connect with the right people, okay? So maybe you have a strong political message. Maybe you have a strong emotional message or peace message or whatever your why is. Maybe it resonates with, I use this example, with millennials, right? So maybe you're very eco-conscious, very socially driven. So maybe those are the people you want to connect with, right? Not just the people that will be interested or drawn by the visual aesthetics of your work, but also the meaning behind it. And that's why earlier when I said just looking at demographics for your ideal collector is not enough, because if you want to appeal really to their emotions, then then you'll have to communicate those messages with them and really connect with them on that level. So for millennials, right, we know that the internet is a way of life, right? So they want to purchase from brands and from people who are socially responsible, who are eco-conscious, right? That's top priority in their decision-making process. So if that's part of your values, right, and that's part of what you are putting out there as an artist and a brand, then maybe that's where you're headed in your thought process. But even just saying millennials, just as I'm saying it, like I'm giving you an example, but it's not enough, right? We'll want to go much further in the millennials that you really want to speak to. And once you start, you see now what I did here and what you're going to be doing on your own is all intuition. It's all brainstorming, right? You can start getting ideas on paper on where you think you could be a good fit, okay? And there's a lot, once you start having those ideas and then start gaining some clarity, that's when we start doing our research and validating our ideas, okay? So first, there's a lot of data out there to help you understand the people you want to reach, okay? So once you start knowing who you want to reach out to and how to best engage with these people. So there's a bunch of resources out there you can find. For instance, there's a website called Trend Watchers that puts on trendwatcher.com. They put on free reports on a regular basis on themes, ideas, trends that resonate in the marketplace and who it resonates with, right? So, and that you can certainly adapt to what you want to be doing, what you want to be putting out there. So Trend Watchers is one, but there's a bunch of resources out there that you can research and really get more insight on your ideal collector. But now we're talking about, so we're done with building on intuition, okay? So we start with the intuition and then we validate. I know it's hard, and I know that is the part that most of you will resist, okay? But it's the most important part, right? Because it can't just stay just in between your ears, because we can make assumptions about our collectors, but if we don't go out there and talk to them, we'll never know if really maybe we're making an assumption that our work is for high-end collectors, and when we start meeting with them, we realize that it isn't, and we're not there yet, right? Or we think that our work isn't for high-end collectors, and then we realize that people who are just starting to buy art, they don't get what we do, right? Because we're really at another level. And it's really because we didn't have the confidence to go after high-end collectors, that we're playing small, but it's not serving us because people who are just first-time buyers don't get what we're doing and they're not ready to invest in that, right? So validating your idea, okay? Validating who you think is the right fit, so it doesn't just stay in your head, but you're actually, so I teach this to creative entrepreneurs, and in their first semester, they have to go out and meet with 40 people that fit their idea of who their ideal collector or target audience is. But trust me that from the first person to the 40th, it changes, right? Their ideas change and evolve by having conversations, right? And even in terms of product development, right? And how you can sell your art. You know, it's one thing to do work on canvas, it's one thing to do a sculpture, it's one thing to do choreography or to do a photo, but how maybe when you start meeting with your ideal collector and hearing what their needs are and what they want, you'll have ideas of how to turn what you are doing into products that they would be interested in purchasing. Okay, so validation, super important. Why? Because this is not a perfect science, people. Okay, this is not a perfect science. And we absolutely need to turn our assumptions into facts. And the only way we can do that is to talk to people. Again, humans. Your ideal client is not over there and you are over here, right? You're thinking of building a community, right? You need to think in terms of these are just people. And if you're not willing to go out and meet with them to validate your assumptions, how will you be selling to them, right? So you need to go talk to them. But even above talking to them, you need to listen. So my sweet, sweet mother used to tell me, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, and to listen as twice as you speak. So you need to get in front of them and listen to what they have to say. Okay, show interest in your ideal collector. So you can do it on social media, which is a great way to start, right? If you're so if you're starting and your assumptions are still vague, or you're very large and you still haven't been able to narrow it down, right? You can create a poll on Facebook, ask a question on Instagram, and you can start by being very, very general, right? You can have an automated email that when people subscribe to your email list, they get an automated email that asks for feedback or gets you to ask questions that they can answer, so you can get to know better who's signing up to your list, right? When I ask an artist, do you have an email list? And they say yes. And they're all proud to tell me they have an email list. How many people? They tell me how many people. It's like, who's on your list? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? It's not just numbers. We're not just building and compiling numbers here. It's people. So we want to know who they are, what they care for, why they were interested in you, what's interesting. Why are they following you on Facebook? Why are they following you on Instagram, right? We want to know these things so that we can give them more of that, right? You know, I hear that also from artists who would say, well, I'm upset. Somebody unsubscribed from my list, or I had people drop off my Instagram. I need to change something. This is not working. Well, absolutely. It's a good time to do a little bit of introspection and understand why people are opting out or unfollowing you. But really, if what you're doing is on message, is on brand, is really aligned with your why and your vision, then it's fine if people unfollow you. It's fine if they unsubscribe, because they will never buy from you because they don't connect with what you are and what you're about, right? So that's why it's so important that when people are unfollowing and unsubscribing, you continue to get to know the people who are still on the list and still following you, because that means they care. That means they're interested, and we need to know why, so that we can align why they're interested, what they want, with what we want to share as artists. Okay? Hopefully this is making sense to you all. So polls, questions, asking feedback, monitoring your social media activity, right? Who follows you, who engages with your posts, who buys from you, and we've had conversations about this in the past, right? Who engages with you on your post and who buys from you is often very different, right? So we want to know, it doesn't mean that because you don't have engagement that you're not selling, doesn't mean that because you have a lot of engagement you're selling. So we need to know, what triggers engagement, but also what triggers sales, okay? Check out your competitors, okay? So in the art world is very, very competitive. But I still think that artists should help each other out and be a community. But if you have artists, right, that you particularly appreciate, you look up to them, right? They do work that maybe is aesthetically similar to what you do, or they cater to an ideal collector that, in your opinion, if they like their work with like your work, there's nothing wrong in trying to figure out what their strategy is, right? And I've encouraged artists in the past to connect with those artists and ask them. And you know what? You'd be surprised. I've heard great testimonials of artists who were more than happy to give feedback to emerging artists on what worked for them, what didn't, and if they had to do it all over again, how they would do things differently, right? So it's totally fine to see what others are doing, either by just looking at it or maybe even reaching out and asking what's worked for them. And if they had words of wisdom to share with you, what would that be? You'd be surprised. And please get out of the studio, meet people over coffee, okay? So in your workbook, I'm encouraging you, right? Try to get meetings, right? Have coffee with people. Ask someone you know who knows someone, right? If they make an introduction, right? If you could have a 5-minute phone conversation with that person. Because of course, starting with the people we know is so much easier than trying to cold call someone we don't know, right? Join a networking event, right? So, and even if you're an introvert, joining a networking event doesn't mean having to go there and just like talk to 25 people. You can go to a networking event and speak to 2 people and go back home, right? So, but if you don't go to these places, if you don't meet the people that you want to meet, you're going to keep saying that you don't know who your ideal client is, and you're going to be absolutely right. Okay? But before you start validating your ideas, okay, we want to start with the end in mind and reverse engineer what you want to validate and why, okay? So you want to know, like I said, what information, insight you want to validate beforehand, right? You want to be prepared and look prepared when you're reaching out to people to get insight and doing your research. Also for yourself, and maybe people will ask you, why do you need this information? Why do you need this insight? Because if you don't know why you need it, it's probably because you don't need it. So ask yourself, okay, I'm going to ask this, this, and that. Okay, but why am I asking this? Okay, and what will I do with this information, right? So if I want to know about if they purchase art, original art, right? So why do I need this information? Well, because if they don't ever buy original art, then maybe they're not the right audience, or maybe it's because they need to be educated. So if they tell me they've never bought original art, then maybe I need to know if they've ever thought about it and why they've never purchased original art, right? so that depending on the reason, if it's because they have no money, or it's because they don't know where to buy it, or they're intimidated by a gallery or something like that, then what will you do with this information? Well, maybe there's an education component. Maybe it's going to make you realize that you're not targeting the right people, right? These are not your ideal collectors. Maybe you need to work with a third party to reach these people because they do buy original art, but they buy it through a gallery. So clearly you will have to go to the gallery route if you want to work with these people. So what do you want to know? Why do you need to know it? And what will you do with this information? So once you've validated, right? Once you've validated your assumptions, now we need to do a little bit of cleanup in your art business, right? We know who your ideal client, you've made assumptions, you've validated these assumptions. Now you've done the research, you know who you're talking to, you know who you're selling to. So now your sales channels need to be updated, right? Maybe even your branding needs to be updated. Your messaging maybe needs to be updated, right? So, but let's just, for the purpose of this workshop, talk about your sales channels. Like, what's a sales channel? Sales channel is through which channel, right? Are you going retail? Are you going online? Are you using a third party? Do you go to live events, craft fairs? Do you organize your own events? How do you make the transaction happen, right? So again, we need to look inward, right? Who are ideal? What are my ideal collectors' purchasing habits? What's the best way for me to show and sell my art? What is possible for me? Remember, I gave you examples earlier. If you live in a small town, small community versus living, in Manhattan or Miami, right? Your strategies will be different. And then looking at which sales channels are the best fit, right? Is it through a website? Is it through online sales platforms? Is it through galleries, designers, corporate art consultants, industry events, licensing? I mean, this is not an exhaustive list. Like, there are so many ways to sell art. One slide would not be enough. What's really important is not to think about where you necessarily purchase art or purchase, right? You need to think about where your ideal collector is. What are their purchasing habits? So when you're doing this research here, that validation, right? You need to have that conversation, because if the people you work with don't buy online, right? So there was a report on online sales for art that came out at the beginning of the year, and I forgot the name of the company who did that. Anyway, and they were saying that, the sale of artwork online is booming, okay? But it's the art market has always been very behind in terms of online sales, but now recently the curve started growing, right? But very specifically for artwork between $0 and $5,000. When you go above $5,000, then we stay in the traditional way of selling art, which is through retail, okay? So sales channels also need to be validated during your research. Notice how I put galleries and designers and art consultants there. So I often see artists who see their target audience as galleries or their target audience as designers. But galleries, designers, consultants, they're not the client, okay? Their clients are not the art, their clients are the collectors, right? So they're in a third party. They're not a target audience. So you need to look at who's the person who's spending the money and which channel they're using to sell, to buy, okay? Because if you want to get into a gallery, okay, the best way to get into a gallery is if collectors start asking about you. Because galleries, they want to sell art. So if collectors are starting to ask around in galleries where they can find your work, and a gallery owner is missing a sale because the collector left the gallery because they didn't buy, because they couldn't find your work, then you rest assured that at some point your phone's going to ring and the gallery is going to be calling you, because there are people asking about you, there's a buzz around you, and they want to close the sale, right? So that's why galleries, designers, corporate art consultants, these are all people through whom you can sell work. These are not your ideal clients. Just want to make that clear. They're business partners, basically. Okay, so when we're talking about sales channels, I'm almost done, guys. Okay, I'm almost done. When we're talking about sales channels, I want you to start with a limited number of channels. Don't try to be everywhere. Like we're talking niche, we're talking specialist. Okay, so choose a couple of channels, explore the best practices for those channels, and create your quarterly sales plan. How are you going to sell through those channels? Adjust your messaging to fit with, you know, we talked about the problems of your ideal collector. We talked about their aspirations. We talked about the need behind the need, right? So you need to adjust your messaging so that it really speaks to them, okay? Follow through and be consistent. No, it's not if you build it, they will come kind of thing, right? It's not because you build a beautiful looking website that all of a sudden there's traffic. No, it's not because you do 2 posts on social media and you make no sales that social media is not the right channel for you, Facebook or Instagram. You need to follow through. You need to be consistent. You need to be visible if you want to make sales. And as you're doing your quarterly plans, you need to get feedback. You need to evaluate. You need to tweak, and you need to adjust. So your next steps, okay? So we've talked a lot about strategy. Now is your time to implement, okay? So what are your desired outcomes for this quarter, okay? What are your desired outcomes for this quarter? What do you need to do? What do you need to implement in your business to reach those desired outcomes? What are your next steps, okay? So I'm talking about implementation here, the doing, okay? You need to start brainstorming about your ideal client. You need to go validate your assumptions, and then you need to tweak what you're doing, right, to really reach these people that will purchase your work. So that's the implementation part. And most importantly, how will you know at the end of the quarter that you are successful? Okay, what does success look to you? How will you measure, right? What gets measured gets done. Okay, so that's the implementation part. Now let's talk about the mindset part, okay? Because it's hard. It's hard to go out there and talk to people. It's hard to ask for help, because at this point you're gonna need help, right? So what are you gonna do to keep a strong, consistent entrepreneurial mindset? And unfortunately, willpower will not be enough, okay? So how will you make sure that you follow through? Are you getting accountability? Are you going to give yourself a reward, right? What is it that's going to keep you going, not just based on willpower, okay? How are you going to organize your tasks, okay, to make sure that you're not overwhelmed, right? You're not closing this workshop and saying, oh my God, where do I start? I still don't know who my ideal client is, right? So you need to take baby steps. You need to do chunks, right? So now your first step is maybe to think about brainstorming and looking at what assumptions you need to validate right now and what information you need to get out there to be able to move forward. So organizing your tasks. And the last part that I want you to think about so that you can keep a strong entrepreneurial mindset is surrounding yourself with people who lift you, okay? Because this is not an easy task. And if you're surrounded with people who don't believe in what you're doing, or maybe haven't done this, or it's going to be hard. But if you can surround yourself with people who have done this before, who can give you some insight, that can introduce you to the right people, then it's going, and they're going to keep you accountable to your success, then you're already setting yourself up for success. Because remember, this is not a perfect science, and it's going to evolve, right? Your ideal client is going to evolve with you, because as an artist, your work is hopefully going to evolve also over the years. So just before we go, I just want to remind you that the more conversations you have, the more people you connect with, the more the more meaningful you have interaction, the more sales you make. There's a direct correlation, okay? So at first, talk to everybody you can. And the more you narrow it down to your niche, you narrow it down, the more you narrow it down, the clearer you're gonna get, okay? I see this every day. It's the truth, people, okay? The more conversations you have, the more people you connect with, the more meaningful these interactions are, the more sales you will make. Voila, this is me telling you thank you so much. I'm gonna stop the sharing. I'm gonna come back here. Okay, so I just want to say thank you to everyone who were here today, who joined me for this workshop. I know it's not easy. I know it's a challenge, but I know you can all do it. And please reach out for support if you need it, because this is the foundation. And once you start building that foundation, you will see that all the pieces will come together, and you will have not only success, but you will have so much more fun doing what you're doing, because you're going to connect with people who actually believe in what you do and are willing to put money out their pocket because they value what you do, and they want a piece of it in their home or in their business. Okay, so I know you can do this. Take out your workbook, go meet people, and go sell art. Okay, thanks for joining me. Bye. Okay, so I stopped the recording, people. I just want to see if there's something in the chat. No, I didn't stop the recording. No.